Community Rec podcast. Today's very special guest is Marty Haberer, the president and CEO of the Levis JCC in Palm Beach County, Florida. So, but first off, Marty, if you can, we're talking today about a very interesting and very positive development going on at your JCC. I know you guys are undertaking a major new renovation. So, just kind of detail what this renovation is entailing and maybe the scope overall of the project.
Yeah, let me, if you don't mind, I'll take it back a little before. So I got to the community a little over 4 years ago, and we are on a 100-acre campus. It is the single largest Jewish campus essentially in the universe. There's nothing like it anywhere in New York, not in California, not even in Israel, because Israel's a country. So for a Jewish campus, 100 acres, it ends and begins in Boca Raton, which is pretty amazing in and of itself. When I got here 4 years ago, our Jewish Community Center was 40 years old and was on the other side of our campus historically for 40 years. And when I got here, I was asked when I was hired to essentially conclude a process of moving us out of that facility, which had become dated and overspacious and very expensive for us to operate. And we just were not able to take costs per square foot. So I was able to conclude a negotiation with our landlord, landlord at the time, the Jewish Federation here in South Palm Beach County, and we were willing to swap property. And so they were willing to give us the remainder of a building we were already in on the other side of campus, and we gave up our space in that old campus. And that's what led to the concept of this construction. And we moved ourselves into that building, which is 22,000 square feet in interior space and another 9,000 square feet in outside space. And we had concepts. Let's use the outside space for a amphitheater and a playground. And we wanted to create an indoor-outdoor opportunity like so many Florida homes have. Like, where we can open up glass doors and when the weather's nice for 6 months, go in and go out and create an environment like that. So that was the concept. Now we had to go raise the money. And we didn't know what we could raise. I was new to this area. I had come from Phoenix, so I didn't really know anybody or any major donors here. And so could we raise $1 million? Could we raise $2 million? Wow, $3 million? Well, we ended up raising so far $9.4 million. And we began demolition for this project on April 1st. We're now almost 7 weeks into the project. The building is really, we've really taken it to the studs, and it's been a lot of fun watching it happen. And now we're beginning to start putting Humpty Dumpty back together.
Awesome, terrific. I know this is a very exciting time. It sounds like the fundraising is already off to an amazing start. Like you said, $9 million is a very impressive number. Well, what is your overall hope when it comes to this project? I think I've been under the impression it's going to be maybe finished by November of this year or somewhere in that time frame. So what's your overall hope for how this could benefit both the JCC and the community at large?
Yeah, so correct. November 1st is the date that we anticipate to reopen. And the thinking behind this was it's very important to know these basic facts. One was when we were wrestling with who we wanted to be as a Jewish community center, we had to figure out where were we going to be. The Jewish community is sprawled and it's growing and it's all over the place in South Palm Beach County. So we had to make a determination. We want to stay on the campus that has housed us for the first 44 years of our existence. Now, 40 when we moved from the building. Or did we want to move somewhere else, in Boca Raton or nearby? And so there was a lot of wrestling over years to determine the best place. And we also started to see what real estate prices were becoming outside of our campus. And so we finally came to the conclusion that it was in our best interests, with both pros and cons, which we can talk about, to stay on the campus. And in doing so, we also were able to negotiate with our former landlord, the Jewish Federation, to let us buy our property, which we did recently purchase, because it made a lot more sense if we were going to put all this money into the building to own the building. So we now own the building and own the land on that campus. So that's the first thing. So what were we, to your question, what were we dreaming about? What are we thinking about? So we want to be the largest, widest, broadest doorway for the entire community, both the Jewish and the non-Jewish community, to be able to safely participate in Judeo-Christian values, family-oriented environment where people do things like theater and cultural arts programming, and even not fitness anymore. We talk about why we're no longer in the fitness business. So it's a major decision that we made and a U-turn that we made. Uh, Summer camping programs where we have 850 children in our summer camp program, which is pretty large, and also a preschool that has 220 kids in it. Those are our primary things that we do. We have a lot of engagement activities. We try to put singles together, try to do a lot of business networking in the community. And so we've put together a strategic plan that really takes us through the end of 2029 and increases our budget from our current $12.5 million to a $16 million budget is our goal over the next 3-4 years.
Very, very nice information. But the thing that I immediately thought about was you mentioned the pros and cons of the plan overall. Yeah, go ahead and dive into that because I think that gives a fascinating look into the way you guys thought about the project behind the scenes.
Yeah, so the pros obviously were we already knew the campus, we already know our neighbors, we already have a comfortable relationship with the landlord, that though they're not our landlord anymore, we still are participating in a communal type of environment where we have to pay in to things like which today in the Jewish community, sadly, is a very real reality, major security costs. So this is a very secure campus with 2 security towers, armed guards in both security towers. So we didn't have to worry about if we left the campus having to somehow hobble security at the security. So that's one thing we didn't have to do if we left the campus. Another thing is that we have benefited as an organization over these years. We're very adept at using spaces on this gigantic campus when they're not being used by other agencies, such as our summer camp. When you have kids in a day camp in South Palm Beach, you know what it's like here come July, August, June. It is brutal. Your kids are not, it's not camp in upstate New York where you can stay out all day and hang out all day on a rowboat. Here, you can only be out for so long. You are going to be out for some activities, but you also have to be in. So therefore, you need a lot of air conditioning. You need a lot of indoor space. So we needed access to classrooms, which we call bunks. We turn them into bunks. And so we have a partner here who is a day school that is not in session during the summer, but we essentially take over a good part of their facilities. So that's wonderful for us. We also are able to use many of the fields that we don't pay to operate because they're part of the campus facility that's used during the year, but they're available and open during that time of year. So again, we're able to maximize the space and run a full-blown summer camp, even though we don't really have the facilities to do that on our own. If we had to go buy a summer camp, and God knows how many acres, it would cost us a tremendous price. So those are the pros. So, the collaborative space, that's all built in there, security protection. The cons are that the community is growing by leaps and bounds, and we have limited parking. Getting cars through the security is an issue. Ample parking for our programming throughout the course of the year on a campus that has 6,500 cars coming through the campus 365 days a year is very, very challenging. So we have limited space and limited opportunity to grow. If we want to grow or build onto our building, we can't. And there's very, very limited opportunity to do so on the campus as it currently exists. So as we move forward, we're going to have to think about possible magnets and smaller operations for our preschool or our camps in other parts of the community, satellites. If we wanted to have satellite operations, that is going to be an option, and it is in our thinking. Although obviously we're a little bit bogged down right now with completing our construction where we are. But those are some of the cons. And the other thing is another con would be we do want to make sure that we cover the entire community. Right now we're on Fifth Avenue, south of the Blades, and we want to make sure that we can accommodate the entire community. We don't want to just campus. We want to measure entire.
Awesome, terrific. And another thing you had mentioned, and I already knew this as well, but this is a very intriguing and also very unique aspect of your JCC. You mentioned you guys had moved away from fitness. You guys are still focused on different programs and recreation and all that good stuff. But just talk about what went behind that and moving away from the general fitness aspect.
Yeah, that was a very, very important conversation that probably took place over the course, believe it or not, of a decade. We started to see a change in the needs of this community. Now, remember, every community has a lot of similarities, and there's an old saying: if you've seen one JCC, you've seen one JCC.
Right.
So they're not all the same. And the nuance in ours is that this community here in South Palm Beach has really grown into a obviously country club oriented community, gated community, and a lot of our community lives either in country clubs or ungated communities. Both of those concepts usually have very significant access to fitness, whether they're pickleball courts and a gym and a swimming pool and tennis courts. They're all there. And so, what is the motivation for somebody that has all of that to drive into a very crowded, security-laden facility to find parking, to finally find themselves into a workout place? I don't know that made a lot of sense for us. The other thing is the competition is fierce and excellent in that space. Personally, here I am, the director of a Jewish community center, and I'm a member of Lifetime Gym. So here's an advertisement for Lifetime Fitness. Because it's good, and there's a couple of them. In fact, there's one that just went up right outside our facility, right out, literally I can walk from my office to Lifetime. So you've got Lifetime, you got, and I don't need to name them all, but all the other gyms, you got Arch Fitness and, there's just ample opportunities to join multiple types of gyms. So we decided that we did not want to compete in that space. We didn't think that we could compete in that space. So we exited that space. Of course, it then created a hole in the legs in our stool in terms of our budget, in terms of who we are, in terms of our mission. And we haven't given up our wellness. We still do wellness. We have silver sneakers. There are other things we're looking into doing. We're open to doing, other types of wellness programming in our new facility or our new space, but it will not be the traditional gym, weightlifting. We're not going to be doing that stuff anymore. Not in this space.
Well, I appreciate the candidness. I know that you said that you're already a member at a gym there, but I love how you guys have read the needs of your community, spoken with community partners, and seen what was necessary and seen what's right for you guys as an organization. So I love that uniqueness, and I've heard that one. You've been to one JCC, you've only been to one JCC, you've not seen them all. So I love that variety in the industry. I was curious, I think you might mentioned this a bit. Can you describe how your JCC is still able to run programming during this major phase of construction throughout this year?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we really haven't skipped a beat. And again, a lot of that is the choice that we made to stay on our campus because we really do have access to being able to move around in other spaces. We have a trailer that we've put up on one end of the campus where our summer camp personnel continue with the recruitment for our camp, which is enrollment is full. We're going to again have over 850 kids in our camp this summer. So they're there all the time. We've also been we pivoted and we rented space at Nexus, where a lot of our administrative staff are currently housed. Some of us, as you see me right here, you can see my little setup and my little gym back here. So yes, some of us are working from home, but we really have not reduced our programming at all. And our typical program season, which ends in May, has come to a natural conclusion, which is why we scheduled our demo and our construction at a time when our snowbirds are pretty much going back north and wherever they come from. And by the time they get back, it's November, and we'll be up and running and be able to use our space again. But our summer camp takes up a good chunk of our concentration and our staff efforts during the summertime, and we will be engaged in that from now until after camp. And a lot of our cultural arts programming that will happen in early fall, whether we have book fairs or those programs can take place in country clubs and other places, and so we're fine. We really haven't skipped a beat. We've got all our engagement programs which just concluded. We continue to have our JBiz, which is our business group that gets together typically at Farmer's Table every couple of months. So yeah, haven't skipped any programming whatsoever. It's just been sitting here instead of sitting on my desk back in the office.
Well, I'm glad you guys are still able to run a lot of programming for the community during this exciting time. But speaking of that exciting time, as president and CEO, speak to what you're seeing on your side emotionally. Just how what's it been like for you during this process to see the different phases of this project moving along to where it's going to be at the end of the year?
Well, it's something that's super exciting. I mean, the first thing is, as I told you, I'm going on my fifth year. I've been here for the fifth year. So I'm here for 15. And when I came here, I was hired under a very transparent conversation with the volunteer leadership here that they weren't looking for somebody to just oil the machine. That the agency was at a time of change, and we were coming out of COVID. We didn't really know what the world was going to bring, and they were looking for somebody who was really going to innovate and not be afraid to literally move us from building to building, building to construction, and change the concepts and create a vision. And so it was exciting for me as a Jewish communal professional who's now in his 41st year of practice to be able to say that as I come to the sunset of my career, that maybe this is the legacy that I leave. Maybe this is the fingerprint that I leave to be able to say that we left a incredibly fast-growing community with a huge Jewish population, over 250,000 people just in South Palm Beach County, over 1 million in the state of Florida, one of the largest in the world. To be able to say that we're creating a front-looking, forward-thinking JCC of today and tomorrow is very exciting to me. And the fact that we uttered these words, not knowing that we could do them, I had no idea whether we could buy a building, that we could raise $9.4 million, that we could actually pull off what we're doing here. Seeing it actually happen, words to action, is really exciting. That it's actionable and that we are doing it, and we're going to be able to look back on this in November and say, and it was good, and it was good. And hopefully, like the movie, if you build it, they will come. And we hope that the facility will really enhance our ability to attract younger and family involvement and keep up with the trends that are constantly moving. Right, the ground is always shifting. People's needs are changing all the time, and so we understand that the only thing that we know with any certainty is that things will change.
I'm a big Field of Dreams guy myself, so I love the quote, if you build it, they would come. So I love that. But finally, thank you for that as well. But finally, I want to arrive at, in this process so far, I know it's early in the earlier part of the year, and there's going to be peaks and valleys as the rest of this 2026 moves along. But what advice or tips would you give to other industry professionals when it comes to handling a major project like this and moving forward with it?
So, I'm going to give you a wishbone on that, which is, on the one hand, I think I've learned over the years that, ready, fire, aim is dangerous, right? Ready, aim, fire is probably smarter. Ready, fire, aim is dangerous. So I think dreaming is really important, because if you don't dream, what do you have? But before you act on your dreams, I think you take a pause. That's a word that I was taught later in my life. I don't think it existed in my vocabulary in my first 40 years, right? But like PAUSE, not PAWS, but PAUSE. Let's take a pause. Let's think. Let's dream. But then let's do the homework. Let's look at the data. Let's use the analytics to see what does the community really want or need. Because there's a lot of things I might have said, right, or you might have said, let's pickleball. Let's just become a giant pickleball court. We'll be the most popular JCC ever. Let's use every square foot that we have to build pickleball courts. Well, interestingly, we have only one pickleball, because that's not, there's a lot of great pickleball going on, and it is a phenomenon. And, nobody can deny that, but it's not necessarily where you want. So my point is, be thoughtful about what you want to do. Think about it. Rethink about it. Don't get too far ahead of your leadership. Bring everybody in.